Good morning, everyone. Oh, come on. Really?
This is labor. Good
This
morning.
is labor? Here's labor's voice. Come on. I've spoken about a lot about labor's voice lately. My name is Esther Bigler, and if you haven't figured that out by now, I am chair of the New York State Apprenticeship Council, at Apprenticeship and Training Council, and it really is my honor to have you meet in the New York State School of Industrial and Labor Relations. It is a school that was founded by the New York State Legislature in 1945 because our members of the legislature were quite clear after World War II and the War Labor Board and the suppression of wages and no real collective bargaining, that in fact, we needed to have people who understood the workplace, understood collective bargaining, and understood the importance of unions and labor relations. And hence the school was founded amid a lot of strikes at that particular point in time. So that is the end of my history lesson. However, I just wanted you to know, if you didn't know the history of our school, the history of the ILR school. And I, in addition to chairing this council, which I love, I am also the director of labor and employment law here at the school. And that includes many different hats that I wear. One involves, we have a wonderful program, a social justice program, which this is a paid political announcement, a social justice program that we have in the summer called High Roads. And I am the director of that program, and we place students in social justice positions. So that includes the labor movement. So if anybody is interested, this is my political announcement, or job increasing announcement. If anybody is interested in having an intern this summer, a very smart ILR, I can tell you, I couldn't get into the ILR school now. I just couldn't. These kids are amazing. Please let me know, because I think it's a really important program, and I want as many students as possible to be involved with the labor movement. So that's the end of that. We have a busy agenda today. And so I first would like, I'm just going to ask the commissioner to introduce herself and to give us remarks. And then we'll have the council introduce themselves. We're going to do something a little differently today. We're not going to go through and have all of you introduce yourselves. That will just take too much time away from the important work that we need to do today. However, when you do ask a question, I'm going to ask you, A, to stand up so everybody can see you. B, I'm going to ask you to please give us your name, and C, your affiliation. It's always important to know who is speaking so that we know exactly where you're coming from in terms of your comments, and we can process them properly. So at this point, I'm going to ask the commissioner first to give us her greetings.
Good morning, and thank you so much. You know, Esther Bigler, if you haven't figured it out, is a real force of nature. And I was very, very fortunate when I came into this position. The very first thing I did officially as commissioner when I arrived in Albany from the train was roll my little suitcase into the Apprenticeship Council and sit down and join the council.
That's correct. I remember that.
The very first official act that I ever did. And it has been a long and wonderful association. I share Esther's deep appreciation for these programs because I just think they're truly amazing. So to that end, thank you so much. You know, registered apprenticeships have gained a lot of traction across the state recently, and we want to keep that momentum going in 2025. This council is a very important part of our ongoing efforts, and I am so grateful for your continued partnership. I'd like to begin by introducing the members of this body, including Jeff Huffcutt, Ernie Hartman, and Bill Mascione, and they'll introduce themselves later. The work of this board plays a significant role in the success of registered apprenticeships. So I want to thank you all for the very important work that you're doing in this space and have done for many years. I'd also like to recognize our federal partners who are with us today from USCOL, Regional Director Bernie Tremmel, and Deputy Regional Director Charlie McNeil. The other two gentlemen sitting up here in front of you have a chance at the break, say hello to them. They also have been amazing partners over the years, and thank you for everything you've done to help us here in the state of New York. And last but not least, I'd like to acknowledge the department's Director of Apprenticeship and Infrastructure, Chris Pinheiro, also doing a very, very good job. So we just wrapped up an incredibly busy November traveling across the state to showcase this effective training model and speaking with businesses, apprentices, and labor organizations. As we know, strong partnerships are absolutely vital to the success of this program. And we are so fortunate that our own governor, Governor Hochul, continues to be the strongest supporter of this workforce development model. And I must add, she has been a resolute supporter of this program since I first met her when she was lieutenant governor. She and I have often talked, before she became governor, about the importance of these programs. So she really is very aware of how significant they are. For the third year in a row, the governor proclaimed November to be New York State Apprenticeship Month. Registered apprenticeship continues to gain its moment in the spotlight. And because of that, we are reaching more New Yorkers than ever before. The department continues to do whatever we can to spread the word about these quality training programs, which gives apprentices the skills they need while bringing home a paycheck to support themselves and their families. We must continue to celebrate registered apprenticeships because of the many positive outcomes we continue to see across our great state. As I just mentioned, getting the word out remains a high priority for us at the department. As part of New York State Apprenticeship Month, we launched a new public awareness campaign emphasizing that registered apprenticeships are another form of higher education. It is so important that students, parents, and educators understand that registered apprenticeships are a viable career path. And as everyone here knows, apprenticeships continue to be the right path for thousands of New Yorkers each year. And in most cases, it comes without the heavy weight of financial student loan debt. The department is also working with state ed to educate school districts, students, and their parents about this positive pathway to gainful employment. And I just should note, when I first came into the agency, we had a tendency to talk about apprenticeship as an alternative to college. And I said, that's crazy. It is higher education. It's just a different form of learning. Because I think saying it was an alternative was actually a barrier for some parents. Mm-hmm. And the more we talk about it, nobody's going to be successful with just a high school degree. Everybody's going to need some kind of post-secondary education. And registered apprenticeships are really a class way to go. Collaboration is key to the success of registered apprenticeships. We hosted, very happily, the 2024 New York State Apprenticeship Summit in Albany this year. And it was so inspiring to see so many powerhouses in workforce development gathered under one roof. We had educators, experts, advocates, organized labor, business leaders, registered apprenticeship sponsors, related instruction providers, and other stakeholders who are all working together to collaborate on innovative ways to expand diversity, address barriers, and attract program sponsors to registered apprenticeships. I'd also like to recognize Assemblymember Harry Bronson as chair of the Assembly Labor Committee. His participation in the summit sends a loud and clear message of just how deeply meaningful this training model is. And again, Assemblymember Bronson has been a close colleague on this work for a long time, and having him as labor chair in the Assembly is really going to be very beneficial to all of us. At the summit, I unveiled a few significant announcements to the state's registered apprenticeship system. The first is that work is finally underway to modernize our system. We are developing new innovative technology that will be more customer friendly for New Yorkers interested in careers and businesses that want to become sponsors. The upgraded system will reduce paperwork, streamline processes for greater efficiency, and improve access. This system will also provide real-time data tracking and improve transparency, and that is a top priority for Governor Hochul. We have been hearing from our partners that they wanted these changes, and I know many of you in this room have talked to us about this. And I am so proud that we are able to finally begin to make that happen. We are also advancing a new initiative to increase accessibility. Now, you've heard me time and again stress the importance of expanding this versatile model into more professions. And we simply cannot do that if businesses are having trouble figuring out how to get in. So we want businesses interested in sponsoring to have a more straightforward way of doing so without taking away from our very high standards, which is why the department is establishing a team of apprenticeship navigators. This team of registered apprenticeship experts will help businesses launch programs and will work closely with our partners at SUNY and CUNY to strengthen workforce pipelines. Again, I want to thank our partners in higher education for working so closely with us. As the world of work changes, we must evolve training along with it. And that means we need our regulations to adapt to the needs of businesses. We have released draft updated regulations that will provide flexibility without compromising our standards. And that is very, very important. I encourage members of this body to provide us any feedback they have on these revised regulations because we value your expert view and your insight into what we are doing. So I hit the road once again this year for National Apprenticeship Week, visiting several cities, announcing more than $7 million in workforce development grants supporting registered apprenticeships and direct entry pre-apprenticeship programs. This funding will promote job readiness programming and help many New Yorkers into great careers. You know, one of my favorite parts of this year's tour was being able to sit down face to face with stakeholders during industry-focused roundtables in multiple regions across the state. These roundtables brought leaders together to learn a little bit more about how registered apprenticeships work and how they can enhance and strengthen their communities. I take any feedback I get during these roundtables to heart, and I want to stress that we always have an open ear for our workforce development partners. And I should just note here, these roundtables were really focused on industries outside of building and construction, because the building and construction trades have the most robust apprenticeship programs in the state. We're trying to address other needs like healthcare, IT, advanced manufacturing. So they're learning from the kinds of work that you have done for decades, really, to create these programs. So, as you've just heard, we've been very busy on the registered apprenticeship front lately. And I wouldn't have it any other way, we have laid the groundwork. And we are aiming to reach new horizons in 2025. One thing you can expect to see very soon is our new apprenticeship newsletter. This informative newsletter will provide important information directly to stakeholders, including updates on new policies and programs. We're going to highlight success stories and much, much more. Again, partnerships power registered apprenticeships, and we want to keep everyone in the loop to continue to strengthen our system statewide. I want to thank the members of this council for playing a vital role in our registered apprenticeships efforts. The work you do has truly changed lives. By expanding apprenticeship opportunities, we are meeting the demands of our evolving workforce while creating a brighter and more inclusive future for all New Yorkers. And with that, I hope you have a very productive meeting today, and I will turn the meeting back over to you, Esther. And
thank you, Commissioner.
Mhm.
She is the biggest voice in the state for apprenticeship. So you deserve all the accolades.
Buttonhole people constantly and sometimes successfully.
Yes, sometimes successfully. And actually, before you came to the first meeting, you and I had met.
Yes.
And what do you think the topic was? Apprenticeship. So I'd like to ask the members of the council to introduce themselves.
I'm Jeff Huffcutt, manager of the Southern Tier Sheet Metal Contractors Association in Binghamton.
And I'm Ernie Hartman. I'm a representative for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
Bill Mascioni, Empire State Carpenters, serving the 57 of the 62 counties of New York State and all of North Atlantic State Carpenters District Council of New England.
Excellent.
My name is Chris Pinheiro. I'm the Director of Apprenticeship and Infrastructure with the New York State Department of Labor.
You all know him, I'm sure you do. So before I turn this over to our first speaker, I want to say two things. One, I want to welcome those people on Zoom, which I failed to do at the beginning of the meeting. And so we're very happy that you've been able to join us at this meeting. And I hope that you find it valuable And certainly you can put questions into the chat.
Mhm.
So if you have a question, let us know and we'll do our best to be able to address your questions. The second thing I want to say now, and I'll say it at the end of the meeting, I want to give you the dates for the next year's meetings now. So please mark them down. 2025 is coming very quickly. February 25th, we always meet on Tuesdays. So February 25th, May 13th, August 12th, and October 28th. So those are the 4 dates that we have. And I want to thank you all again for coming. I love seeing this room filled.
Yes.
I really do. And with that, I would like to ask Charlie McNeil to get up. He's the Deputy Regional Director for USDOL Apprenticeship, to present his report and discussion about an update from USDOL.
Thanks so much for having me and being able to present here for the council. So first, I'd like to start by expressing my sincere gratitude for the state and your warm hospitality during National Apprenticeship Week. It was an honor to attend events in Utica, Rochester, Oriskany, and Poughkeepsie. The Thruway was my friend. Special thank you to the commissioner for the memorable events at the Giotto Enterprises fiber optic instrument sales, where we celebrated the signing of new apprentices and presentation of proclamations from Governor Hochul. I'm especially grateful for the personal proclamation presented to me during this event. To bring on for National Apprenticeship Week itself, on a national level, National Apprenticeship Week was a tremendous success, with over 2,500 events, proclamations held across the country, including 220 here in Region 1 alone. New York State performed admirably, tying with Massachusetts, sadly, for third place, hosting 29 events and presenting 4 proclamations. And I know there were many more provided than that. New Jersey led the way with 39 events and 19 proclamations, setting a higher bar for our region in itself on that. We still need to beat out Region 5. They drop the mic every year with like over 500 events just alone. That's all of the Great Lakes area and so forth. When you start talking about the regions, our region itself covers all of New England, New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. So we stretch out pretty big there. But overall, thank you so much for all of your participation. I know the events and all the other sites visits that are provided and you demonstrating and showing what we do here in Registered Apprenticeship really counts on that. So looking ahead for the future of National Apprenticeship Week, it's evolving. After a decade of celebrating National Apprenticeship Week in November, so the governor's going to have to change the date, the event will transition to the spring to better align with warmer weather. I'm not sure how April is much more warmer. And also graduation ceremonies, usually persons in our high school level or that are departing are starting to have their ceremonies and starting to choose to come into registered apprenticeships and so forth, and align with so it aligns with the academic year. So from feedback from Apprenticeship USA partners revealed the challenges with November's timing. A lot of our budget issues in itself, or other states having budget issues. Colder weather and busy election season, which is really not helpful having National Apprenticeship Week butting into the elections. So to accommodate National Apprenticeship Day will be celebrated on April 30th for 2025. So we're switching to a 1 day for next year. Celebrate all week, all month, though. Either, that doesn't matter on that. But then we will, from that point forward, continue on with our week-long expression. So like I said, April 30th will be the first week long on that. So we'll start with April 30th, 2025, National Apprenticeship Day, then April 26th into May 2nd, April 25th to May 1st, and then April 23rd to April 29th for a National Apprenticeship Week. So that's 26, 27, 28, continuing on. So if you have any other questions or thoughts to it, you can come to ask me. We're also looking on apprenticeship.gov. That's where we'll post all this.
Any questions?
Any on that? Awesome. So notice of proposed rulemaking. So as many of you are aware, the U.S. Department of Labor posted a notice of proposed rulemaking earlier this year. While the final rule is expected to change, the administration has led to the withdrawal. So basically, with the new administration coming in, we're pulling back right now. It is not that it will not be posted. It still is going to be considered. However, we are pulling back to see what the new administration brings on. There is lots of discussion with the new administration to the fact that they still will utilize registered apprenticeship, and it will be involved in those areas there as far as for workforce development and continuing on. But with that, as was noted, New York State has provided their revisions to their regulations to ourselves, because in order for the state apprenticeship agency in New York to be recognized, it has to go through our regulatory process as well as far as for overview. So while there are posts or requests for comment proposed of the proposed changes for New York State, that still has to all be approved by our office as well. So we are going through that process, and we are working closely with the Office of Apprenticeship here in New York in order to provide the feedback and technical assistance, as we always do, working and partnering together. Another event that is going on, the Eastern Seaboard Apprenticeship Conference. So this is the oldest conference held here in the United States. So the conference expanded this year to include the states in Region 3. So currently we have pretty much from Virginia all the way up into New England and out to West Virginia is pretty much our furthest. Now we're bringing in those southern states. So adding in North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. So the Eastern Seaboard Apprenticeship Conference is now a total entire Eastern Seaboard. So this year it will be held in Charleston, South Carolina during the week of May 19th of 2025. The website's now active and the executive board's beginning to post conference information, adding agendas and so forth, expanding a lot of our discussion to the points that we have in details as far as in participating. It should be a phenomenal session or conference to attend. So as we approach this festive season, I want to extend my best wishes for the holidays. I hope you're all enjoying this time with your loved ones, and I look forward to another successful year ahead and advancing apprenticeship opportunities across our communities. Thanks so much.
Wait, in case anybody has a question. Does anybody have a question? Please stand up, give us your name and who you
My
represent.
name is Arthur Clark. I'm the training director for Plumbers Local 1 in New York City.
Mhm.
I was a little bit alarmed by your comment that you're going to pull back on these proposed regulations.
Yes.
And I'm hoping we're not going to hear about IRAPs again.
You are.
I will hold my tongue.
There's no,
Yeah.
nobody's dropped that yet.
No, that has not been mentioned.
It will be.
Yeah, and that's all I can say about that. To quote, that factor, Forrest Gump on that one. But yes, as far as even to the proposals of the regulations, if, granted, this 600-page document was not the document that we were actually posting as a final rule. There, of course, is just discussion with the new change coming in through the administration. They have continued to, again, talk about utilizing registered apprenticeship. Because they added in industry recognized apprenticeship programs the last time, because industry requested to it. The one thing that was into that part is that administration, for those that were approved, no one ever utilized it. We had one organization. It was a nursing organization that already does everything with it. They had 175 industry recognized apprenticeship programs for things that they were already doing. We were basically their third party. No one else did anything with it. But the first thing they asked for was funding. Not the nursing organization. They did everything without it, but everyone else wanted money. And I will say that was a positive to the Trump administration, because they stood to it as, if you want to do this, we're not providing you funding. So we shall see what happens this time through. We've not had anybody approach yet for transition to our office. The nominee for the Department of Labor from Oregon, and she is for labor, organizational labor. So I'm not, I see it as a positive. Again, this is my personal, even though I'm standing here at this podium and get official, it could be dangerous, but that is, I do see that as a positive in the insights and the outlook for registered apprenticeship. And
Thank you very
continuing.
much.
Anyone else?
Any other
have a
thoughts?
question? Charlie, thank you very much.
Thank you so much again.
Have a wonderful holiday.
You as well.
So Melissa Johnston is the manager of the Office of Special Initiatives at New York State DOL, and I think this is what you were referencing,
The
Commissioner,
new navigators.
the new navigators. Hi,
Yes.
Melissa.
Hi,
Welcome.
Esther. Thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. I did give an update, the first update at the last council meeting about the creation of this brand new exciting unit called the Apprenticeship Navigator Unit. It's focusing on business development. We're going to be doing a lot of targeted outreach to try to grow registered apprenticeships across the state in every industry, but especially new and emerging industries like healthcare.
Melissa,
Yes,
move your microphone a little closer to you.
There.
is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. I'm supposed to be advancing the slide too, so just give me 1 second.
Nope, wrong. That's Sean's.
Yep.
No.
Sorry.
Slides got.
Okay, here we are. So to continue, I just wanted to give you guys an update on where we're at with building this new unit. There are actually going to be navigators that are focusing on this business development. We are posting them to start in 4 different locations across the state: Plattsburgh, Elmira, Syracuse, and White Plains. We have completed interviewing for Plattsburgh. I'm going to be in White Plains this Friday doing interviews, and then in the very near future, we're going to do Syracuse and Elmira. These representatives are going to be field reps traveling all over the state to meet with businesses, to attend events, and really just promote registered apprenticeship and try to increase the number of registered sponsors in the state. I'm optimistic by the next council meeting that we will have this team on board and already doing outreach. And in the meantime, if you or anyone that you know has an interest in opening a registered apprenticeship program or just any questions, I'm happy to help. And I do have a stack of business cards over where I'm sitting, so please find me. I also wanted to provide a quick recap of a specific part of National Apprenticeship Week that we did here in New York State called the Industry Roundtables. And to start, I want to give you a little context of what a roundtable is. It's a gathering where individuals interested or involved with New York State registered apprenticeship come together and really just discuss the advantages of the program. These individuals include employers, educators, industry representatives, and there's a lot of great discussion about the specific successes that these businesses have had using registered apprenticeship. So on November 19th, the Cortland-Cayuga Workforce Development Board hosted a roundtable with an advanced manufacturing focus at SUNY Cortland. Approximately 16 businesses and business associations attended, and they learned about the benefits of partnering with Department of Labor to leverage the program to access multiple hiring incentives. So this includes training grants and tax credits. And then one of the great things about all of these events is we had some existing sponsors come and they provided testimonials of how beneficial this program has been to them and how it's helped their bottom line. On November 21st, the Community Healthcare Association for New York hosted a roundtable with a healthcare focus. So we talked a lot about certified nursing assistants. We talked about LPNs and really like how this program is being used right now and could be used in the future to assist with these hiring needs. Approximately 20 healthcare businesses attended and learned about how other businesses are already implementing this, and it's really helping with their labor needs. Businesses did express a need for recruiting and training assistance in several trades specifically, including CNA, community health worker, sterile tech, respiratory therapist, and again, LPN. At this one, there were 2 businesses that stood up and provided testimonials praising the program's successes in their locations and encouraging other businesses to take advantage. Then finally, our last roundtable, on November 22nd, we traveled to the Brooklyn Navy Yards, hosted a roundtable with a focus on new and expanding industries such as media and arts. Approximately 15 businesses from unique industries attended to learn how this program can really help them. Since then, a number of businesses have followed up directly with me, and I'm doing outreach to each person who has attended one of those roundtables. And I'm working through the list. So if you were there and I haven't gotten to you yet, you will be getting a call. But really, we're just trying to make it as easy to access this program as possible. And you can start by just coming to me or referring any business to me. And I just want to also mention Commissioner Reardon was at every single one of those roundtables, and they were just wonderful. It was amazing to have that that level of engagement directly with the businesses that wanted to attend and learn more about the program. And those are my updates for today. I hope to have more updates soon on the apprenticeship navigators that will be coming on board, but I'm happy to take any questions that anyone has.
Any questions for Melissa? Over
Over
here, we've got a question for you, Melissa. Could please stand up and identify yourself?
Yes.
Could you repeat the question so everybody could hear it, Melissa?
Absolutely. She was asking if we work with nonprofit organizations. Absolutely. And I use the word businesses, but it could be anything. We have education facilities that are using this. We have hospitals, manufacturing. Like, we're really trying to break into every industry out there.
So it's really about organizations.
Yes.
It's really about organizations.
Absolutely.
Great. Anybody else have a question for Melissa? Well, this sounds very exciting, Melissa. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
I know we're a little ahead of schedule, but we're going to do our break now. And then we'll come back in 10 minutes. So it's 11:32. We'll be back at 11:42.
And there's
And
coffee out there.
And there's coffee out there, people. And then we'll start with Sean. Thank you, everybody. So as I started to say, the issue of prevailing wages in public work is really important to all of us. And of course, it obviously dates back to the New Deal. And so it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to Sean McCready, the Director of Public Works at New York State DOL, to talk about his work. Sean.
Thank you very much, Justin. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate the invite. Especially happy to be presenting here specifically as an ILR grad myself and currently on the alumni board. Prevailing wage enforcement and apprenticeship runs very closely. Some distinctions, and this enforcement doesn't always go the same way, as apprenticeship regulations go. So happy to dive into that. Basically, yes, there we go. We don't know what the prevailing rate is, going back, as Esther said, back to the New Deal, the prevailing rate of wages paid in the state. We set it every year, July 1st. And as far as apprenticeships go, apprentices can be paid the apprenticeship rates within the prevailing wage schedules. And if they're not a registered apprentice, they can't. It is basically what it boils down to. However, there are a number of different issues that come up. I'll go through a number of those. Obviously, what our bureau does is we go out there enforcing the apprenticeship rates.
Sean, could you speak up a bit?
Sure, sorry about that.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah. So I got to just stand here so I'm closer to the mic. So we go to the job sites, we do educationals, we advise contractors and employers what the ratios are that they can use, when they can pay apprentices, when they can't, stepping up our efforts to do more surprise visits at job sites. I think we did something in the range of 1,700 job site visits and educationals at work sites last year. Just pushing our bureau to kind of double that over the next 12 months, get out there more. So we're doing more efforts to do that. Again, I know with this group, maybe you're familiar with this, example of prevailing wage schedule, what we've been going out, and this presentation that I'm showing you up on the screen now, we're going to hopefully be putting up, clean up a little bit and get up on the website. So it's available for everybody who's not completely familiar with it to follow this as well. We've been doing a number of efforts to improve our website so that people looking for this information can find it. Actually, just the other day, the whole landing page was basically scrubbed and boiled down to how can we help you? When you get to the prevailing wage, Bureau of Public Work and prevailing wage website now, it's simply, what is it information are you looking for? Click one of these buttons. Is it apprenticeships? Is it PLAs? Is it, the contractor registry? and it'll take you, to where you need to go from there, rather than what had turned into, like a 10-page PDF of scrolling on. Again, for those, sometimes in the wage schedule, as it was up on the screen, it gets posted to apprenticeship rates as just the straight wage. Sometimes it gets posted as the percentage. It comes down to what's in the CBA that we're using for the wage schedule. And again, it's stating the obvious to many in this room, but not the obvious to some. You need a journey worker present supervising the apprentice to pay them as an apprentice. And as far as the ratios are set by the state, by the council, and those are the rates. They're all available on the DLWell's website through apprenticeship, and that's where you would find them. Again, this is an example of that site. I know in some instances, we've seen situations where, despite what's posted in the official CBA rate, ratios, CBAs will put forward different ones, and we'll get questions from project managers. Hey, whoever's doing this project, they say they're going by the CBA that changed the ratio from called 3-to-1 to 4-to-1. Okay, they can write whatever they want in that. It doesn't change the fact that the ratios that we enforce, that everybody has to abide by, are the singular ratios posted for the state. It's not regional, it's for the state, and those are what we go with. What if multiple trades, claim the ability to do the work? Again, only the apprentice rate that may be paid is the one to whichever the journey worker rate is being used. So whatever journey worker rate we enforce the work being done as, those are the apprentices that can be used for that task. And how do we determine the rates? Again, we take them from the CBAs, and which CBA we use is based on our 7 factors. And again, this isn't a policy decision. This comes from a court of appeals case from a few years ago, Painters, which basically presented this issue of which apprentice rates can be used based on the journey worker rate work that's being done. We get this question a lot. Again, what is a helper? It's kind of, beating a point to death of, it's somebody that performs usually various tasks on a site. What are helper rates when it comes to the prevailing wage? There aren't. Just to clarify that point, it doesn't exist. No matter how many times we explain this to people, there are no helper rates. At the end of the day, what are pre-apprentices? They're not registered apprentices. Can pre-apprentices be paid the apprenticeship rate? No. There's a chart that'll be included here. There are 5 different categories of how you can think about pre-apprenticeships, apprentices, various different training programs. At the end of the day, per the statute, per the wage schedule, it is just the registered apprentices that can be paid the apprenticeship rates. When are they registered? When the agreement is signed by the DOL, when they receive the paperwork and they sign it. It says it right in the form. We've had this dispute too. It's not ambiguous. We have, as a department, have to receive it within the 30 days, but they still have to be registered in accordance with Article 23. And the program that they're working under, like I said, can an apprentice work for just anybody? No, they have to be part of a registered program. So that's where we work in conjunction with the apprenticeship office with. When we're doing investigations, we'll confirm that the contractor is actually part of a valid program, and are the people they're paying as apprentices actually registered apprentices. It all boils down to that. Like I said, the issues we get mostly that we see are people playing with the ratios, paying people as apprentices when they actually aren't registered apprentices, making up terms like helpers and various things to pay people with apprenticeship rates. So it is an ongoing problem we're mindful of. We're looking at different ways to prevent that. How do we know if a program's registered? We talk to Chris and speak. There's a list of active sponsors. It's not a mystery. A lot of the information is out there. So we're also working through the prevailing wage end of it to get people, to this information, point them in that direction as well. Can an apprentice be retroactively paid the lower rate? No, they have to be registered. You can't just go back and they're registered now, but they've been working on the project for 6 months. We can pay them, right? No, they should have been registered at that time if you wanted to pay them that way. And basically what I just said. So in terms of, again, of the efforts, as I'm sure many are aware of, we have the contractor registry now. It's going to go into effect in 13 days. I just double checked this morning. We've had 2,900 submissions so far, and we've approved 2,300 of them. So we're moving right along. We're getting the word out on that. And this will help us monitor, the contractors are out there doing the work. We keep a closer eye on what work is going on out there. And the more we can automate with things like the contractor registry, like the certified payroll submission system that'll come into play next year, the more time frees up for investigators to get out there, stop at more job sites, and double check to make sure that people are working, are getting paid properly. So that's kind of my spiel in a nutshell. I'm happy to take any questions now. Happy to take any questions later. I can hang out a minute, email me, call me. Like I said,
Okay.
Sure.
Again, off the clock, one of the slides said that apprentice ratios on public works projects can be modified as per a PLA. And my question is, how does your office become aware of the PLA? At what point do you get involved, and how do you get the information about how these apprentice ratios have been modified and how that will be treated?
So generally, our general stance on the PLAs is a stance of deference. If it's a PLA on a public work project, traditional public work, we have the jurisdiction. The PLA doesn't work very well if we come in and just say, no, you can't do anything you worked out. We're going to enforce the regular prevailing wage, the way we would enforce it. So we take that deference approach. We find we don't get involved in the actual negotiations of PLAs or getting them, signed on a project. We find out about them when somebody complains about our project. Hey, we think we're not getting paid properly on this project. We'll go, one of the first things we do is verify, was there a PLA? If there was, then we find out, well, were they paid within the terms of the PLA? And then what were those terms? Generally, no one's going to agree to a PLA that's going to be so wildly outside the normal bounds of, apprentice ratios or the wages, that it's going to be a situation where we finally take that step of stepping in and saying, no, you can't do this. This is way too much. That hasn't happened yet. I guess in theory, it potentially could. I just don't see anyone agreeing to terms like that. But when I say it can be changed, it's more of the scope of work. So all the trades get together, they sign the PLA. Normally, we know DOL would enforce this work as just pick a plumber, whatever. But we're going to divide it up. We'll let this little bit be, this other trade, just because we know the work availability within the terms of PLA. Then that's how that alters it. It could alter it which wage is being paid for the work, and that could also alter it in terms of the ratios they agree on. I haven't seen one that's so far at a step that it would be, wait, everybody agreed to like a 20-to-1 or 1-to-1. It's if it was something like that where it's so skewed what was normally supposed to happen, we would then have to take a look at it. And then in that certain, situation by situation, does this PLA violate the norms of, what's supposed to happen with the PLA so much so that we have to step in and try and stop it. So.
But your involvement would be triggered by a complaint or someone bringing it to your attention. There's no routine.
Oh, sure. If we, no, I mean, we go out there and we'll stop at job sites. We don't necessarily know there's a PLA on it, to begin with. We might stop and start investigating and then find out there is one. And then our investigation shifts a little bit to find out what were the terms of it and everybody being paid according to it, as opposed to, what would be in the schedule necessarily. So no, there's multiple ways. Sometimes it's just third-party interested parties will call and ask about one. Hey, we know there's a PLA in this project. I'm nervous about it because there's a bad history there or whatever it is. Okay, we'll take a look at it. Or we randomly come upon it during investigation, routine visits, or there's a complaint, or there's any different way it comes to our attention, we'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, Charlie.
Charlie McNeil, U.S. Department of Labor. So a question.
Oh, thank you.
So question is the factor of, say, a project with federal purpose monies, funding, reciprocity. You have an actual program from, say, Texas. They're coming up here and they're doing a job site. Now you're doing an inspection on that job site. That program is an actual officially registered program in another state. How is it you go about doing that? Because that is an officially sanctioned program recognized by the U.S. Department of Labor, Secretary of Labor, just like every New York State program. How is it you go about that side? Because they still have registered apprentices, and we know CFR 5 totally got rid of the helper factor in there as far as to that part. So they can't be utilizing them anyways on registered apprenticeship. So my question is, how is it you go about ensuring that side of it? Because they're actually legally utilizing apprentices on that federal project, but it's still using federal money and also state monies.
Right. So it's if the For them to be paid for work performed in New York, they would just have to officially get that reciprocity granted to them. Again, that's not through me, it would be through the apprenticeship office. So we would verify that if we found out that a program from out of state was working. Again, the federal project versus state project, especially with a lot of the expansions in New York in terms of public subsidy law 224A, all the covered private work now under 224 sections, it creates a lot of interesting situations when it comes to things like that. One, if there's a PLA, we'd lose jurisdiction immediately on all the 224 ones. If it's the line, the way federal projects are funded, it seems to be changing a little bit, where previously it was a federal project, we just had no jurisdiction, it didn't matter. Now we're getting ones, where like the IRA in particular is the biggest one that comes into play. It's not necessarily a federal project, but there's tons of federal funding. So at a base level, at least under public subsidy, any federal funding doesn't count towards the 30% public subsidy funding for us to get jurisdiction. As far as the IRA, again, it's a federal program, so that wouldn't count towards the 30% for public subsidy. And people ask us all the time, is our use of apprentices good enough for IRA credit? You have to go ask the IRS. It's not even really you guys. It's like, do you have a DOL number? Yeah, US. I do, but it's not them to answer the question either. So we're trying to help people as much as possible with that. We've gotten that question a lot. I tell them you have to verify that with the IRS. It's, if it's a state project, we'll let you know what the state rules are that you have to comply with. If there's federal implications too, I'll let you know if I believe there's federal implications, but that's where my advice has to end. I can't tell you, yeah, you're definitely going to be good under IRA. Now I'm a state official giving you federal legal advice, and I'm not even.
No, definitely. And no matter what, as far as that program, under the requirements, under the regulations for reciprocity, those programs must meet the ratio requirements of the state and wage requirements. So that comes into play on that. So when people ask those questions, and yeah, we get the same thing as far as the IRA, that's just causing all kinds of items on that. But
yeah, but this can be flagged more for us. So with the registry now, it's outside. Contractor wants to come in and do work in the state, they're going to have to register. We're asking them, do you have a registered apprenticeship program? So we're going to start to see out-of-state contractors with registered programs. Well, you registered means you probably want to work here. Maybe do some proactive follow-up. Hey, have you guys gone through the process for reciprocity? What are you talking about? Let me tell you. And so we're looking at ways to use the registry for things like that, just to get more information to people.
Thank
you. Any other questions? Okay.
Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good to see you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Chris, the Director of Apprenticeship and Infrastructure, for his report to us.
All right. So you guys got to give me a second because I use a lot of technology when I do this, and I need my notes on my iPad here. All right. So is it still morning? Good morning, afternoon. It's afternoon. It's 4 after 12. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I want to thank Esther again for having us come to this building in the ILR. It's beautiful to be here. We all got to see the tree last night, so that was exciting. And hoping that we're going to get to continue to have meetings here, although next year it will probably be in October, since we're doing a meeting in October next year. But also want to thank Sean for coming to speak this afternoon. I figured people were probably tired of hearing me all the time, so we're trying to bring other folks in to present at these meetings. Last time we had Denise Zieski from the State University of New York speak. Sean was here to talk about public work. So similar to what the commissioner said earlier, if you have ideas about things you'd like to see presented here, please let me know, and we'll try to work those things into future meetings for y'all. I do have well, that was Sean's. Thank you. I'm not done yet. Do have some slides that we can show you here. We're going to do my normal update. These are the things that I'll go through with all of you, starting with National Apprenticeship Week. Not yet. So we've heard a lot of really great stuff about National Apprenticeship Week and New York State Apprenticeship Month. The commissioner was all over the state like she always is. Melissa did a number of roundtables. Charlie told us about all the wonderful things that were happening in the rest of Region 1. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Arizona for a National Governors Association meeting during National Apprenticeship Week about apprenticeship innovation. I continue to always be humbled to be able to go to national meetings like that and essentially represent all of you in those places. It's always an honor for me. It was a ton of fun. I got to see some of my other state director friends from other states. We talked a lot about different innovations in apprenticeship. So it was more about some of those expansion industries that we talk about. That was generally the focus. And this is the first time I'd ever been to Phoenix, so that was fun too. So that was what I did during National Apprenticeship Week. That's why you all didn't see me. I was in the airport at Detroit for a while as well. But you know what, that comes with the territory. So next, want to let everybody know about the Empire State Apprenticeship Tax Credit Program. This is a program that provides tax credits to eligible businesses who have registered apprentices for a minimum of 6 months during the year. That program, this year and on the 31st is when, if you are an eligible business and you want to apply for the tax credit, that's when you need to reach out to us by. It is a very simple process for us. Sean Boyle, who's here and going to talk about some trades in a little while, really helped put that together and did a great job with it. Just, some quick reminders on that. This is also an expansion focused program. So these are generally for programs outside of building and construction. And the tax credit is against your franchise or income tax for the year, and it's based on the year that your apprentice is in. It gradually gets more, the tax credit gets higher as your apprentices get further into it. So again, deadline for that is December 31st, and eligible apprentices would have had to been enrolled by July 1st, 2024 in order to be eligible for the credit. So in addition to that, the commissioner mentioned Harry Bronson. Harry Bronson is a big champion of this legislation. He had a big hand in putting it together. It does include additional credits for disadvantaged youth. So if you have younger individuals in your programs, the tax credit is higher. And there's also a mentor credit. Now, mentor is not just a journey worker. It has to be there's a little bit more to it than that, but there is also a mentor credit piece to that as well. There's a ton of information about this on our website, and Sean's here, so you can ask him if you have any questions about it too. So modernization project is my favorite thing to talk about. Commissioner mentioned it. It's really exciting for us. We are moving along. Our first focus was apprentice agreements. And if you all listened or were here for our meeting last time, you heard me say that we're trying really hard to get away from form numbers, because if you say AT 401 in this room, most of you probably know what that means. But if you say it to somebody who's never been involved in registered apprenticeship before, their eyes start to glaze over. So the AT 401 is the apprenticeship agreement. We're going to start referring to it that way. I still have my little swear jar in my office. It's got a lot of money in it right now. Anytime anybody says a form number, they got to put money in the jar. We're trying to get away from that. The apprentice agreement is the first thing we did. We're working with a company called Ernst & Young. Some of you may have heard of it. We have a video put together of what the apprentice agreement looks like right now. I was hoping to get it posted to our website before this meeting. Unfortunately, I was not successful in that endeavor, but I do plan to put it out there for you all shortly. It's a minute and a half or so and gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. And it talks a little bit about where we're going after this. After our apprentice agreement, the next thing we're looking at is the paperwork. That's paperwork. We're trying to get away from paperwork. All of the documentation that sponsors need to submit. So new program applications, and also getting into, if you have revisions to make, if you have apprentices that you want to complete, finding where that's our next focus. So once the apprentice agreement's done, then we're going to move to that. And I am very, very happy to report that we're going to be able to collect electronic signatures. So you will all be able to get your apprentices to sign their agreements. That's our modernization project. Staffing, I've said this here a number of times. I'll say it again. The only thing I think about more than staffing is my family. And we are so close to being fully staffed in the apprenticeship office. We just brought on a new ATR in our Buffalo office. Her name is Ruth. So if you're from the Buffalo area, please get a chance to meet her if she's going to be your ATR and say hello. We are still down two positions in our field office, our ATRs. We have one in Albany and another one in Buffalo that we're still looking to fill. We just started that process. So we're going to start interviewing. And like Melissa, I am hopeful to be able to tell you at our next meeting that we have hired those two folks and we're fully staffed. That said, I am also always working to increase increase our capacity in our central office. And I've had some initial conversations about getting those things, getting another person in central office to help with some of our policy work. But we'll see how that goes. So before I move on to the data piece, there's a couple of things that I wanted to make sure I mentioned. Our regulations, Charlie noted that the NPRM that the federal government put out has been pulled back for the time being. We are moving forward with an update to the New York State Registered Apprenticeship regulations. That's both Part 600, which is our EEO regs, equal employment opportunity, and Part 601, which is the balance of the registered apprenticeship regulations. They are currently with Charlie, as he said. Charlie actually has reviewed them and sent them to the national office for review. They are posted to our website now so that you can all go take a look. But I want to be very clear, this is not the official public comment period that would start the regulatory process in New York State. They're out there for stakeholder input. So please go take a look at them. And if you have any questions or comments, please submit them. Just know that this is for that stakeholder input. It is not the official regulatory process of the state yet. We'll get there. Hopefully, we do have to get a blessing from USDOL before we can move forward with that piece. So I think I said I was going to say two more things, but that was really the only one I wanted to make sure I said. So we're just going to start talking about data now. We're just about at we're just about at the end of the year, but I want to start by letting everybody know that we always report a quarter behind. Reason for that is programs generally have 30 days to provide us with information. So I don't like to get too close to the current date with information that we're going to provide. So everything that we're going to talk about today is through September 30th of this year. And you can see from the slide here, we had 595 sponsors operating just about 900 programs, little over 17,000 active apprentices. And through September 30, we have already completed, we've already issued over 2,000 certificates of completion. That's really good. That means that these are apprentices who have completed their programs and gone on a journey worker status. Always like to see that number as high as we can. This one's just a visual depiction of those numbers that I just shared with you. And as you can see here, they've been pretty consistent since about 2019. Now, one of the things that Esther and I have talked about is that consistency is usually seen as a good thing. And it is a good thing, but I think here what we'd like to see is that number start to move up. And where we'd like to see it start to move up is in some of those programs that the commissioner was talking about and some of the programs that Melissa's going to be focusing on are things in industries outside of our building and construction trades. Because if you look at those numbers, that's mostly building and construction trades. And we want to see some other folks come in and really start to utilize this model that we all know works so well. So same numbers here, 899 programs, 595 sponsors. For anybody that might question that, sponsors can have multiple programs, so there's always more programs than sponsors. We started doing regional data a little while ago. I think people like seeing this because it shows you what apprenticeship looks like in your area. This is programs by region. And as you're looking at the slide, the blue line is total programs, the orange line are our building and construction programs, and then the gray lines are everything else, basically, all of our other trades. So you see what the breakdown looks like across the state. The Finger Lakes continues to be our leader in the number of programs. They've been doing that pretty consistently since we started showing this data. Interestingly, New York City always ends up right in the middle of programs. A little bit later, we look at the number of apprentices, and then the chart looks like people, I think, expect it will look. So these are new programs so far this year. We're at 73 new programs total. That's 9 of those are in building and construction and 64 of them are in everything else. So we're starting to see those non-traditional programs start to catch up with the number of programs we have in building and construction. And we're getting back to close to where we had been sort of pre-COVID. 2019 always stands out to me as a year that we were really cranking, but we haven't quite gotten back to that yet. But we're starting to see those numbers come up, which is always a good thing. This is new apprentices, new programs by region. So similar to what we talked about earlier, just showing where new programs are registering in your part of the state. This data is all also going to be available after I'm done, so please don't feel like you need to take pictures of the slides or anything like that. We'll make them available for everybody. I mean, you're certainly welcome to if you want. But, so now we start looking at, instead of programs and sponsors, we start looking at the number of apprentices. This shows you a breakdown of the 17,000 plus apprentices that I mentioned before, how many of them are in building and construction and how many of them are in everything else. So in September this year, 14,396 of our 17,317 apprentices were in building and construction trades programs. And the balance of them, which is just under 3,000, it's 2,921, were in everything else. That's 17%. So when we're talking about expansion and we're talking about building, that's where we're looking to build. We're looking to have those numbers start to get closer to more apprentices in things outside of building and construction, while keeping that number of apprentices in building and construction where it is, and hopefully see it grow a little bit too. So next slide, this is apprentices by region, and this is the one that I always say looks like what people are going to expect it to look like. Just over or just around 8,600 of our 17,000 apprentices are in New York City, and almost 7,000 of them are in building and construction programs in New York City. And then you can see the rest of the state. The Finger Lakes is second, which makes sense. We talked about that they have the largest number of programs. So Finger Lakes is second there. And similar here, the gray line is the total number, the orange line is the building and construction trades, and then the blue is everybody else. So here's our newly enrolled apprentices through September. We're at 42, almost 4,300, which is good. We're getting close to that 5,400 number that we had last year, which is very close to the 5,500 number that we had pre-COVID, which is what we're trying to get to. Next one here, this is newly enrolled by region. Again, looks like what you would expect. The majority of our new enrollments are in New York City, and then the Finger Lakes is second. That orange line is building and construction, and then the blue line is everybody else. And that's actually, that's a good sign for me, because we're seeing that blue line is starting to catch the orange line. That's what we want to see happen. So we'll close out our data portion talking about our diversity numbers. So this chart shows of our total apprentices, how many are from minority populations, how many are women, and how many are veterans. So at the end of September, of our 17,000 plus apprentices, 7,200 of them were from minority populations. Just about 2,000 of them were women, and 1,100, 1,200 or so were veterans. Those percentages are very consistent across the years that you're looking at here. The numbers move a little bit, but the percentages stay pretty close. And then if we look at it here, what we're looking at is those populations in our building and construction trades, and then in everywhere else. So what you see here is that for minorities, people of color, and veterans, we tend to be pretty close. 41% of our building and construction trades apprentices are from minority populations or people of color, where 49% in all of our other trades are there. On the veteran side, it's 7% are building and construction, and then 5% in everything else. We continue to see this fairly large discrepancy between the percentage of our apprentices in a building construction trades that are women, and the percentage in our other programs at 8 and 29. So I've said this before, and I'll continue to say it. This is a place where I think we can focus to try to increase the number of women we have in our building trades, and have, even at 29% in our other trades, women are half the workforce. So this number should be closer to 50. We want to see that in both places, and we definitely want to see the participation of women in our building trades increase. So that's something that we should be thinking about and focusing on. Before I take questions, I've also taken to saying this at when I'm done. Mental health is a very important thing for us all to consider. I know that in the building trades, we've been talking a lot more about it lately. It's very, very important for people to understand that this is nothing to be ashamed of. If you need help, please ask for it. And I've been very pleased at the last couple of conferences that the New York State Building Construction Trades Council and the Workforce Development Institute, WDI, have been doing. They've been talking about this. It's something that needs to be talked about. It's still taboo. It needs to not be taboo. So please, if you need help, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Please ask. With that, questions?
Questions for Chris on his presentation? Questions for Chris? Yes, sir. Could you identify yourself and
Hi there, I'm John Chavaco. I'm with Aztec Geothermal. And I was kind of curious if you went past 2019 and further back, is there a trend where we had a whole lot more apprentices at one point? Are we doing better than we did in the 1970s? I just don't have perspective at all. And if we're flatlined like it looks like we are, why do you think that is? Sorry, that's a big question.
Yeah. So
it's an interesting question. Thank you.
Number of apprentices, in the time that I've been here and the data that I'll full disclosure, I don't know that I've seen any data much earlier than 2015. And I'm shooting from the hip here, trying to remember what it looked like. I want to say that the largest number of apprentices that we have had since I've been the director was around 1,800, maybe 18,000, 18,200. And in the time that I've been here, it's been right around that like 16 and a half to 17 and a half range. Prior to 2016, the number of sponsors and programs was lower. And that started to pick up in 2016 when the state started looking at those kind of expansion things, getting into industries outside of building and construction. So since then, the number of programs and sponsors has kind of went from where it was in 2015 to where it is now, and been pretty consistent since about 2019, where we're not seeing, I shouldn't say it that way. The programs outside of building and construction tend to be a lot smaller. And for that reason, we're not seeing that growth in the number of apprentices that I think we want to see. So if there's a reason why we haven't seen a big jump, I think that's it. We have a lot of smaller programs in things outside of building and construction. They tend to hire one or two apprentices. I think I'm 98% sure that outside of building and construction, manufacturing is the second best represented industry in the state. And even in manufacturing, where we have some larger programs, we're still only talking about 3,000 people total across everything that's not building and construction. So that's a place where if we start to see those programs gain steam, build up a little bit more, start to bring more apprentices on, that's where I think we have the biggest opportunity for growth. And I think with the navigators coming on, that's a place that we'll be able to put some more focus and try to increase the numbers that way.
Good. Thank you, Chris. Any other questions for Chris on his presentation? Okay, thank you, Chris. We're going to move on. And now my favorite part of the day is to talk about our new trades. And so Sean, no, you're not my favorite. She's my favorite. I talk to you a lot. I don't talk to him a lot.
Right. How do I click this?
Oh,
nice.
Jimmy.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here in the city. I love coming down here, and to echo, Chris, as he said, we got to visit the tree last night, which I've never actually visited the tree. I've never seen it before. So that was actually kind of fun. And I'm kind of hoping before we leave that I can stop at the main branch of the library, which would be amazing.
Take a picture with the lion.
I will. So our first new trade proposal, bartender, is from prospective sponsor Restaurant Opportunity Centers United, based here in New York City.
Yeah.
Founded after the attacks of September 11th, 2001 by restaurant workers displaced from the World Trade Center, Restaurant Opportunity Center has grown into a national organization dedicated to achieving economic stability and thriving futures for people working in the restaurant industry. The occupational group for this trade, bartenders, is projected to have a 20% increase in employment statewide between 2022 and 2032, and employment prospects are considered very favorable. Typical job duties include knowledge of alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages and their appropriate methods of preparation, knowledge of alcoholic drink combinations and identifying drink recipes and ingredients for mixing cocktails, making recommendations for popular drinks, suggesting upgrades to wine and higher shelf liquors, and recommending beers, ales, and wines. Planning and developing beverage recipes and new cocktail recipes, responding to customized drinks requests, and employing knowledge of mixology to fulfill these requests. Learning proper serving techniques for beverages and identifying and using the appropriate glass and stemware that corresponds with each type of beverage. Pairing wine and other beverages with meat, poultry, fish and seafood, cheese, spicy foods, and desserts. Stocking serving stations or dining areas with food and supplies, maintaining inventory and records of beers, wines, and liquors, and overseeing the ordering of materials, supplies, and equipment as needed. Working with customers to resolve issues and learning when and how to remove hostile or disruptive customers and when to involve security. Monitoring customers for intoxication and when to deny service and arranging for safe transportation when necessary. Opening and closing facilities and preparing for shift changes, and processing customer bills and payments and ensuring all receipts and transactions are balanced and reconciled. The proposed length of this time-based apprenticeship is 2,000 on-the-job training hours with a minimum of 150 hours of related instruction for each apprentice. The ratio for the trade is 1-to-1, 1-to-1. On August 21st, 2024, we posted the draft training outline to the NISDL website as required and solicited public comments through September 20th, 2024. To date, we have received 4 comments, all in support of the trade.
Any questions?
Yes.
Yes. You need to hit the button so we can hear you. Have to turn it on.
I'm really good at this. Hi, Nicole Vertran, Executive Vice President of the Edward J. Malloy Initiative for Construction Skills. We don't do anything with bartending, but I wonder, I didn't hear you mention any kind of health and safety with regard to food and beverage service as part of the apprenticeship.
That is in the outline. Excuse me, there is a section in the work Appendix A and in the Appendix B.
And absolutely education required by New York State about preventing sexual harassment as well. Okay, council, any questions on this trade? No? Can I get a motion?
Make the motion.
Second, Esther.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this one is approved for us. Now it goes to the commissioner for her approval.
Okay. Sorry, as technology skills aren't as awesome as they could be.
Before Sean starts, I just want to remind everybody that if you scan the QR codes on your agendas, it will bring you to where the outlines are linked on the website. So you can see, to Nicole's question, you can see the pieces that he was talking about in there. We're trying to save paper. So we, I started with QR codes, electronic signatures are next.
So care coordinator is next, Sean.
There is an estimated 133 million Americans suffering from at least one chronic illness. This number is expected to reach approximately 170 million by 2030. The growing number of Americans with ongoing health conditions underscores the importance of effective coordination between patients and the healthcare community in providing quality care. This proposed new trade, care coordinator, will train apprentices in managing and organizing patient-client care between 2 or more participants involved in a person's care, such as healthcare providers, social service providers, and payers, and communicate information with everyone involved, including the patient and client, to help ensure safe, appropriate, and effective care. This trade was developed with the Adirondack Health Institute, an independent nonprofit organization supporting hospitals, physician practices, behavioral health providers, community-based organizations, patients, and others in the Adirondack region to transform healthcare and improve population health, with interest and input from other prospective organizations. The occupational group for this trade, patient representatives, is a subset within health technologists and technicians, which is projected to have a 21.6% increase in employment statewide between 2022 and 2032. Typical job duties include maintaining effective relationships and communications with external organizations to facilitate service coordination, referrals, and a positive outcome for clients or patients. Empowerment and self-confidence of clients, patients, or responsible parties to help work toward problem solving, self-advocacy, and self-management skills. Providing outreach, information, guidance, and education to clients, patients, or responsible parties, and other members of the care team for appropriate healthcare utilization, effective care transitions, and eliminations of barriers, including socioeconomic barriers, quality of care, and cost control. Providing coaching, information, and referral services to clients and patients to promote wellness, preventive care, and to manage various chronic and/or behavioral health conditions. Understanding the role and scope of practice of all members of the care team. Collaborating with the care team to build effective and positive relationships among care team members to support positive outcomes for clients or patients. Recognizing the client or patient as a contributing member of the care team. Assessing and identifying client strengths, needs, concerns, and preferences. Recognizing and respecting diversity with respect to factors such as culture, religion, race, ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, gender identity, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic status to uphold the client's value system, preferences, and choices. And maintaining ethical and professional practices and standards. The proposed length of this time-based apprenticeship is 3,250 on-the-job training hours, with a minimum of 144 hours of related instruction for each apprentice. The ratio for the trade is 1-to-1, 1-to-1. On October 28th, 2024, we posted the draft training outline to the NISDL website as required and solicited public comments through November 27th, 2024. To date, we have received no comments.
Any questions on this trade, on this new apprenticeship? Council, does anybody have a question? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. You want to go on to the next one?
Yep. So our third trade. Nanotechnology is defined as the manipulation of materials and devices on a scale of atoms or small groups of atoms. A nanoscale is typically measured in nanometers or billionths of a meter. Considering how difficult that is to imagine, here are some examples by the National Nanotechnology Coordination Office in Washington, D.C. A sheet of paper is about 100,000 nanometers thick. A human hair is approximately 80,000 to 100,000 nanometers wide. There are 25.4 million nanometers in 1 inch. And if the diameter of a marble was 1 nanometer, then the diameter of Earth would be 1 meter. The proposed new trade, nanotechnology engineering technician, comes from the Center for Economic Growth, or CEG, a nonprofit economic development organization that grows manufacturing and workforce capabilities. They currently sponsor 6 registered apprenticeship programs. This trade was also developed with participation and input from Global Foundries and New York Creates. Global Foundries is a leading manufacturer of essential semiconductors. In February 2024, Governor Kathy Hochul celebrated their announcement to invest almost $12 billion over the next 10 years to expand their facility and build a new 358,000 square foot semiconductor manufacturing facility on its campus in Malta, New York, creating more than 1,500 direct jobs and thousands of indirect jobs. Yep. New York Creates facilitates global partnerships and research efforts that propel forward industries engaged in nanoelectronics, advanced analog, and digital technologies. On October 31st, 2024, Senator Chuck Schumer announced they were awarded $825 million to establish a federal computer chip research center at their complex. My colleague Brett Gold and I conducted a visit to the New York Creates Albany Nanotech campus, a 1.65 million square foot complex that includes 152,000 square feet of clean rooms, hundreds of corporate partners, and thousands of research and development jobs. This visit also included representatives of Global Foundries, CEG, and Hudson Valley Community College. During this visit, we were able to witness firsthand the essential work they are accomplishing in this industry. And it is actually really impressive. It's almost like wizard's magic. You know, I had a flip phone held together with Scotch tape until a few years ago. So this stuff like completely blew my mind watching this. So typical job duties for the trade include adhering to clean room protocols for nanotechnology design and manufacturing, including proper gowning procedures and equipment and material handling. Recognizing the effects and methods of contamination control in nanotechnology design and manufacturing to prevent contamination and ensure product quality. Operating nanotechnology testing, processing, or production equipment in accordance with appropriate standard procedures and manufacturing practices. Conducting experiments, tests, and analyses using appropriate techniques and equipment. Assisting nanoscientists or engineers in processing, measuring, or characterizing nanoscale materials or objects according to physical or chemical properties. Utilizing measurement tools and techniques such as atomic force microscopy, transmission electron microscopy, scanning electron microscopy, optical microscopy, or particle size analysis to manipulate nanoscale objects. Collaborating with scientists or engineers to design or conduct experiments in developing, building, or testing products, processes, or procedures related to nanotechnology materials, components, structures, devices, or systems. Implementing production processes and operating equipment to produce, test, or modify molecular and macromolecular materials, devices, or systems, and implementing new or enhanced design, methods, or processes for improved testing or manufacture of nanotechnology materials or products. The proposed length of this time-based apprenticeship is 4,550 on-the-job training hours with a minimum of 144 hours of related instruction for each apprentice. The ratio for the trade is 1:1, 1:1. On November 12th, 2024, we posted the draft training outline to the NISDL website as required and solicited public comments through December 12th, 2024. To date, we have received no comments.
Any questions?
I do. Just for a point of clarification, Sean, that does not include any building of the clean rooms. Am I
No.
correct?
No, correct. You're absolutely.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
Can I get a motion, council?
Make the motion.
Second, Jeff? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Truck driver.
Each year, over 75% of U.S. households get a delivery once a week or more, and almost 25% get a daily delivery. This proposed new trade, truck driver light, in the parentheses, last mile delivery, will train apprentices in operating a light vehicle, such as a truck or van, with a capacity of less than 26,001 pounds gross vehicle weight, primarily to pick up merchandise or packages from a distribution center and deliver. This trade was developed with the National Apprenticeship Training Foundation, a training corporation that specializes in customized training programs for employers and individuals throughout the United States, with the assistance of Earn, Learn, Drive, which supports careers in logistics and truck driving, with a hyper focus on light duty trucks, and with interest and input from several prospective employers. The occupational group for this trade, light truck drivers, is projected to have an 8.8% increase in employment nationwide between 2023 and 2033. Typical job duties include operating vehicles with capacities under 3 tons to transport materials to and from specified destinations, such as warehouses, transportation centers, residences, offices, and commercial and industrial sites. Recognizing the different type of delivery vehicles, such as box and light duty trucks, vans, and walk-ins, and their specifications. Operating vehicles in accordance with proper safety procedures and protocols. understanding the operations and logistics of the delivery process, and recognizing the roles and duties of vehicle maintenance teams, warehouse workers, loaders and transporters, and dispatchers in the delivery process. Planning efficient routes, considering fuel, conditions, hazards, and regulations, and planning routes based on delivery times and locations such as evening, weekend, rush hour, holidays, and deliveries in rural and urban areas. Safely loading shipments, belongings, and materials on and off vehicle, and organizing shipments adhering to weight and capacity limitations. Transporting goods over short distances in a timely and sanitary manner, avoiding damage to products. Securing and protecting high-risk and high-value cargo, such as medical supplies and devices, perishables, and high-end electronics in accordance with regulations. Safely entering and exiting vehicles, including walk-in vehicles, navigating traffic, pedestrians, hazards, and other conditions. Identifying safe operating conditions and recognizing how to navigate vehicles in various conditions such as weather, terrain, day or night, construction areas, and school zones. Maintaining records such as vehicle and route logs, fuel usage, records of cargo and load weights, or billing statements in accordance with regulations, and exhibiting appropriate customer service during deliveries. Proposed length of this time-based apprenticeship is 2,000 on-the-job training hours with a minimum of 144 hours of related instruction for each apprentice. The ratio for the trade is 1-to-1, 1-to-1. On November 15th, 2024, we posted the draft training outline to the NISDL website as required and solicited public comments through December 15th, 2024. To date, we have received no comments.
Any questions? Council?
Esther.
I have a question. The training that you're putting, or that this group has put together.
Could you use the microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, the training that,
You have to hit the button.
okay, the training that you're talking about was sent to you by a group that intends to sell it as a training for prospective.
No, they're going to be,
employers?
they're the sponsor.
They will be.
They will be the sponsor. They're the prospective sponsor.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for the question. Anybody else? Council?
One in the back, Esther.
Go ahead.
Nicole.
I did it this time. Nicole Bertrand again. I have a lot of questions and I'm sorry I didn't respond in the public comment period, but
Okay.
I wonder how this affects Amazon and the Amazon Labor Union. Are they part of that apprenticeship program? How does it affect the Teamsters? How are these workers organized?
Actually, I have to say that's not part of what we look at in terms of whether something is an apprenticeable trade. I'm with you on all those questions, but it's not part of our analysis. Charlie?
To expound upon that occupation itself, it is nationally recognized as well. It is registered as a program. It is registered as a program in Arkansas currently. The reason they brought it here because they were utilizing heavy truck. And when they brought the organization actually reached out to our office originally, as well as with Chris. It was through our referral service, if you will. But they wanted to make sure that the occupation represented actually what those apprentices would be training on. You know, driving around in New York City itself should be its own training and, you know, and that part all. So that's where that comes into play. And as far as into your representation, as for Amazon, if they're unionized, as far as in the Teamsters, we solicit nationally for all those, as far as I'm wishing to have, providing those proposed comments back to us and received none, or they provided some input as to other aspects of the occupation overall. So it just brings that New York State does approve at a, I'll say almost a higher level for those, for the occupations here locally in the state, so.
Nicole, we could talk about that later. It's a favorite subject of mine as a recovering labor and employment lawyer. Okay, council,
Make the
Can I get a
motion to
motion?
accept.
can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next,
Okay.
General Insurance Associate.
Our last trade. So the concept of insurance dates back over 4,000 years, appearing in Hammurabi's code. The code describes a form of bottomry. A ship's cargo would be used as collateral for a loan, with repayment contingent on a successful voyage. If the cargo were lost at sea, the loan would not need to be repaid. Modern insurance grew out of the commercial and industrial revolutions, growing more sophisticated to address specific needs and issues. For example, property insurance developed as a result of the Great Fire of London in 1666. London's growing importance in the late 17th century as a center for trade led to the increased demand for business and maritime insurance. This new trade proposal, General Insurance Associate, is from prospective sponsor Industrial Coverage, founded in 1958 on Long Island to provide the community with insurance protection for families, property, and businesses. This proposed trade was also developed with the assistance of Michael Tedisco, CEO of Apprenticeship Connections and Consulting Corporation. This salaried occupation falls within the occupational group, insurance claims and policy processing clerks, and is expected to have a 7.5% increase in employment statewide between 2022 and 2032. Typical job duties include learning the different types of insurance policies, such as life, health, automobile, and property, and coverage options. Creating and processing insurance documents, such as certificates of insurance, insurance binders, and auto identification cards. Developing and building relationships with customers or clients. Processing policy endorsements and changes in coverage. Processing electronic documentation, such as renewals and new business submissions, electronic signatures, and form completions. Updating and maintaining driver, equipment, and vehicle schedules. Understanding the services provided by a broker and their role in evaluating risk and coverage. Navigating various underwriting systems and applications. Utilizing insurance software systems, agency management systems, risk management software, and business productivity software to manage and streamline operations. Recognizing how corporate litigation plays a role in a commercial insurance company and how companies plan for and react to a dynamic regulatory environment. And understanding the different types of audits, such as premium, claims, commission, and operational, and how they are conducted. The proposed length of this time-based apprenticeship is 3,000 on-the-job training hours with a minimum of 144 hours of related instruction for each apprentice. The ratio for the trade is 1-to-1, 1-to-1. On November 20th, 2024, we posted the draft training outline to the NISDL website as required and are continuing to solicit public comments through December 20th, 2024. To date, we have received no comments.
Any questions? Council, any questions? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Sure, go ahead.
Go see the Lions?
I'd like to.
You know their name?
Patience and
Oh,
fortitude.
he knows, okay, thank you.
Did you have any question about that? Really? Really? And after this presentation, you had that question? I love it. And I'm so glad you could answer it. Thank you, because I couldn't. All right. I'd now like to move to the last section of our meeting, which is the open forum. If you have something that you want to ask Chris about apprenticeship, please do so. We're going to ask you to use the microphone and also to tell us where you're from and who you're representing. And you've got a prepared statement.
Just a few notes to myself. Thank you, Esther. I'm George Shuck. I'm the training director for IBW Local 3 in New York City. I do want to get some comments on the record about a proposed trade outline update submitted by the North Atlantic States Carpenters Training Fund.
Okay.
Their proposed update is including the installation of solar panels into their apprenticeship program. For those of you, I know most of the council was around, and some of the people in this room that are as old as I am may remember. We had a similar incident come up back in 2010, where there was a trade reactivation proposal for fire alarm, security installer. And it came to this council for a recommendation. I do understand that since this is an update, there is no recommendation required under the law by the council. But the issues are pretty much the same issues that were back in 2010. You know, I'll go back. I read most of the comments that are on NYSDOL's website. I did not read all of them, but I did leaf through the more than 1,500 comments in opposition to this trade update, and also some of the 500 comments in favor of it. Going back, I do want to point out that as part of the definition of an apprenticeable trade in Part 601, it includes, and I quote, is in the judgment of the commissioner, not a part of an occupation previously recognized as apprenticeable, unless such part is practiced industry-wide as an identifiable and distinct trade. So, like the incidents I referenced back in 2010, I submit that approving this change to the carpenter's apprenticeship program would make the trade of carpenter an unapprenticeable trade. Solar panels have been included in the electrician's work processes. For my program, we've been doing training since 2003. I know they've been a part of the standard work processes and related instruction for electricians since about 15 years ago, best I could figure. So therefore, as I know it's not a recommendation of the council, but I did want to get my comments on record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, would you like to speak? I'm going to suggest, however, that at some point it could become redundant. So please make new comments so that we can get a full amount of information onto the record for you. We need a microphone.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us speak today. My name is Todd Brewer from IBEW Local 241 in Ithaca, New York.
Oh, Ithaca.
Yep.
Okay.
I've been in since 1988. I've worked on solar projects. My contractors do a lot of solar projects.
I think if you hold it closer, we can hear you better, or maybe the
Okay.
microphone's not
Is
turned
that better?
on.
Okay. I've been in this since 1988. I've worked on a lot of solar projects. My contractors do lots of solar projects all across the state. I got some notes here so I won't forget. We heard earlier today, we heard Commissioner Reardon and Chairwoman
Esther Bigler.
Esther, yep, thank you, about the importance of apprenticeship programs and what they mean to everybody. But now we're here today because we got one trade wanting to, I don't sound negative, but to take work away from another trade that already has a proven, recognized, registered New York State apprentice program. Just doesn't make sense. It seems like we should be concentrating efforts on other avenues instead of looking to water down another trades apprenticeship program. If the carpenters are allowed to do this, all it's going to do is drop the local area standards, because their wage package is a lot cheaper than the electrician's wage packages. And who wins in this? Just the developers. So you can have the developers going around thinking, okay, who gets paid? Who has the least package? We're going to hire them to do the projects instead of the best trained, qualified people to do the projects. Or my local's been doing it for, like the gentleman said up front, probably 15, close to at least 15 years. We've been training this as part of our apprenticeship program. And other locals have been doing it over like 30 years. It's our work. It's IBW's work, always has been. Years ago, Chris Alond sent a letter with his determination saying that the solar work was the work of the electricians. And I just hope that we honor that. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak to this issue? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Addie Jenny. I'm here on behalf of the New York State Association of Electrical Workers, the construction business managers. I urge, to the extent that this council has the ability to impact the decision, that the update requested by the North Atlantic States Carpenters Training Fund be denied. The additions requested are specific to work on electrical systems, specifically solar collector and/or photovoltaic technologies. Training to safely and efficiently work on these electrical systems is already included in the trade outline for electrical apprentices, along with the foundational and specific training needed to install, test, troubleshoot, and maintain these systems that operate at voltages and currents that can be hazardous. The proposed trade outline update does not include the foundational and specific training needed to properly work on these systems, from installation to troubleshooting and maintaining these systems. This work is properly included in the electrical worker curriculum to ensure these systems work as designed in a safe and efficient manner. The proposed update does not even include additional hours of training on this work, certainly not the amount of training that is required for electrical workers to perform this work, which is 5 years. Given New York State's increasing reliance on electricity produced by these technologies, we cannot afford to have these systems fail, let alone afford the death and injuries that will occur if the systems are not correctly installed and maintained, including injuries and death to first responders and host communities. Again, on behalf of the association, I urge the rejection of this dangerous proposed update to ensure safety on these projects and to safeguard the integrity of New York State's apprenticeship programs.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment? Yes?
Could I go there just because I have some papers, it'd be a little easier.
Sure. By all means, please identify yourself when you go there. I would, as you're getting yourself ready, reiterate to everyone that this is not before the council. This is something which is in the purview of the commissioner and is not before the council. But I do appreciate hearing all of this. And certainly this will all be made clear to the commissioner, all the comments that you all have made. But I do want you to understand, we're not taking a vote. It is not before us at all. So please identify yourself.
Thank you. My name is Chris Kelly. I'm the training director for Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee for the industry of Nassau and Suffolk counties, also commonly known as IBW Local 25's apprenticeship program.
Okay.
So without compromising standards is what Commissioner Reardon began this meeting with. And I just would like to echo what George Shuck has said about thieving existing work processes from an already apprenticeshable trade. And I was there with George for that meeting. And I actually was one of the people who wrote the additional 200 hours in the X work process for the green portion of the electricians' work processes. So I just would like to explain to the people, word for word, they took existing work processes from the electricians and put it into their work processes. So that is a perfect and blatant example of what George was talking about, taking something that exists already, that has already been doing and being performed by electricians, and trying to move that into their program. And I'm not going to bore the people in attendance, but I do have written notes that I would like to present at the end of the meeting, at least so you can present to Commissioner Reardon. My concern is this: if this goes through, I can almost guarantee you, my intuition tells me, that the council and the commissioner is going to revisit this with numerous other trade update requests. For example, perhaps the plumbers will request to update and install porcelain and ceramic tile on floors and walls because they mount their plumbing fixtures on it. And they can say that that's a means of them supporting their fixtures. Well, the wallpaperers and painters might request an update to install substrate so they can install their products. That would be sheetrock. Or even electricians request an update to install metal track and studs because we run conduit through there and we have to support our conduit and we have to install and mount our boxes. I'm just saying this is a very slippery slope, I believe, to go down. And I absolutely do not think that they should be granted their trade update request.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Anyone else? I'm taking one more comment and that's it. We are now out of time. So sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm the last one because all four of us were from Niagara Falls. We've been up since 3 a.m. to catch a flight to come here because this is how important this is to us. So I'd like to express my strong opposition to the Carpenters Union's proposal to include solar electrical training in their New York State Registered Apprenticeship Program. This attempt to claim electrical work traditionally and rightfully performed by electricians is a significant overreach that threatens the integrity of the building trades and raises serious safety concerns. The installation of solar modules, inverters, bonding, grounding, and related systems has always been explicitly the work of the electrician. The New York State Department of Labor has consistently recognized this fact, and the electrical work in these systems falls squarely under the jurisdiction of the IBEW and our contractors. The installation of solar systems is covered by the National Electrical Code and requires inspection by licensed electrical inspectors to ensure safety and compliance. This is highly specialized work requiring extensive training, knowledge, and experience. It's an injustice and a significant risk to public safety to suggest that this work can be performed by any trade outside of the electrician. Improperly installed solar systems can result in catastrophic failures, including electrical fires, system malfunctions, and severe safety hazards for workers and the public. IBEW electricians and apprentices have been performing this work for years. We have contractors specialized in solar installation and have developed the expertise needed for these projects. Our apprentices have documented thousands of hours of installing and maintaining these systems under the supervision of journeymen, and the training and standards maintained by our joint apprentice training committees ensure that this work is performed safely and correctly, protecting workers, properties, and communities. By the carpenters lobbying public entities like the New York State Apprenticeship Council, they are weaponizing the system in an attempt to steal work of skilled tradesmen and tradeswomen. This is not just an affront to the electricians. It undermines the entire system of trade jurisdiction that ensures quality, safety, and the accountability on job sites. The carpenters' pursuit of this work disregards the expertise and training required to perform solar electrical installations safely and competently. Their proposal is not about expanding opportunities for their members. It's a blatant attempt to encroach on work that has been clearly established as the jurisdiction of the electrician. I urge the New York State Apprenticeship Council to reject the Carpenters Union request to include solar electrical training in their apprenticeship program. This work belongs to the electricians, as it always has. Granting the carpenters this jurisdiction would not only undermine the integrity of trade boundaries, but also compromise safety and quality in an industry that demands the highest standards. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to reiterate, this issue is not before the council. This issue is before the commissioner. And I know you stood up at the same time he did, so, and I did say one more, but please add something new to what we've already heard. I understand that this is a highly charged issue, but one last comment, and that's it. The meeting will be, we're now past time on our meeting, and those of you who've come to meetings before know I end on time. So please, something new that we already have not heard. And identify yourself, please.
Well, I mean, Chris is well aware it was 700.
Okay, my name is Jim Hayes. I'm the New York City training director for the Carpenters, the former director for the North Atlantic Carpenters. So I can only speak on this because I was involved in the training with the North Atlantic Carpenters in Syracuse and Rochester. And what they're doing is they're training the carpenters how to install pile. They're training the carpenters how to put the rack system up, which they're leveling, they're screwing, they're bolting together. They're also putting these solar panels on the rack system that has to be leveled. They are not training how to do the wiring. By no means is any wiring or any electrical work are we training the carpenters to do. Just wanted that as a comment. That's what we're training. We've always done pile, just like leveling studs and leveling track. That's what we're doing, but we're not doing any of the wiring.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Chris, is there anything you'd like to say
So-
before I end the meeting?
Yeah, to Esther's point, this is not something that is being considered by the council. Our regulations identify that these kind of trade updates are solely at the discretion of the commissioner. For those of you in here, just to give some reference, we did post the outline for 30 days as we're required. George spoke about the robustness of the response that we got to that outline. So comments have been posted to our website. Anybody who's interested can go take a look. We posted them on last Thursday, the 12th. And it is now something that the commissioner will review. She will also review the comments that were provided here today. And then she will make a determination. And I do not have a timeline on when that determination will be made. So just wanted to make sure I got that out there. I also want to note that in addition to the comments that we received here in person, there's 2 or 3 comments in the Zoom chat that will also become part of the official record. Folks are asking me to read their comments out loud. They are very similar to what we've already heard from the majority of the folks in this room, so I'm not going to do that. But do know that they will be included in the official minutes of the meeting.
Thank you, Chris. I want to thank you all very much for coming today, especially since it's a gridlock alert day. So it's a pleasure to see all of you, and thank you for coming from Niagara Falls area. That's very impressive. Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that our next meetings are February 25th, May 13th, August 12th, and October 28th. And I wish you all a safe and healthy holiday season. And let's hope we have a really wonderful 2025. Thank you all for coming.